Only the children of light is gonna understand this.
For there are three philosophical sects among the Jews, the followers of the first of which are the Pharisees, of the second, the Sadducees, and the third sect, which pretends to a severer discipline, are called the Seeds. These last are Jews by birth, and Jews by birth.
All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath. Peace and blessings.
First and foremost, we want to say all praises be unto the Most High, Almighty, Ahai Yeshua Christ, our Lord, our God, our Savior. This is the Essene Community Church of Christ. My name is Archbishop Shamar.
And I'm Bishop Micah Allah.
And we be bringing you today's Sabbath report / lesson. All right, and we be going into an important one as we're in a festival season, in the summer season, all right, especially here in the city that we're in, all right, Toronto, Canada. All right, as we're celebrating Carnival. Well, we're not celebrating Carnival, but the city is celebrating Carnival. All right, so we always go into understanding based on what's happening. All right, so others who are in the States, this might not be happening around them, but currently this is happening today and this weekend over here in Toronto, Canada. All right, and we're having Carnival. All right, we're just going to go into the origin of Carnival, Bacchanalia. And, you know, we've been into this before. We're going to go into some a little more intricate details concerning it. All right. And once again, they have Carnival all over. We have Mardi Gras. There's ones in the islands, right? There's ones in Europe. There's the masquerades, right? So anything where they have the masks and things of that nature, right? So it's not just in Black or Caribbean culture, right? It's also in European culture. And we're gonna get into all of that as well, all right, today. So once again, this is today's Sabbath report / lesson. Is the sins of Sodom, all right? Carnival and Bacchanalia, the freeing of the flesh, all right? So once again, it's the sins of Sodom, Carnival and Bacchanalia, the freeing of the flesh. All right, we're gonna get into some good understanding today on this topic, all right? And hopefully, most High willing, it's one lesson. That's the plan. It's not too lengthy, all right? But it is detailed and to the point. All right, so we're gonna start. We're at Isaiah 53:1.
This is the book of the prophet Isaiah chapter 53 verse 1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed?
All right, so who's gonna believe our report? We always start off with the scripture because Isaiah in his time, first verse, all right, he's saying, who's gonna believe the report? Who's gonna believe the report that the Most High is sending out with the prophets? Why? Because how he does it, right? When the Most High is dealing with people, he's giving them information and you're not seeing it. So you're like, all right, you're really dealing with God? All right, that's how it always was. All right, you had to prove to people. You had to show them, look what I know what I'm talking about, right? Shines. They be like, yo, show me something. Let me see something before they believe, which once again, we know the Most High is trying to get them in through faith, all right? Not through science, all right? But they wanted signs, all right? Even with Moses in the wilderness, all right? But Christ came and he said, all right, a wickedest and adulterous nation seeketh a sign. They're not going to see no sign but the sign of Jonah, which was his death and his resurrection, all right? His death, burial, and his resurrection. That's the sign, all right? Everything else now is just confirmation of your faith. You're already believing now without the signs, and now you're asking for confirmation, him to show you confirmation, to strengthen that faith. All right. And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? They always asking arm. Arm is power. Who is the power of God revealed to? All right. So everyone's always asking to see some type of power, some type of this. All right. And now we're understanding that it's not more physical. All right. The Old Testament was physical based. The New Testament is abstract based. All right. So this power, it tells you we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. All right. Spiritual wickedness in high places. All right. So we're fighting against principalities, principles, laws. All right. And once again, we're always going to say it during COVID-19, the church showed that we understand the principles of laws and to be able to battle out with law. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go into the scriptures to ensure that it's interpreted, translated, and taught correctly. We're at Sirach 1 and 6.
It's the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, out of the Apocrypha, chapter 1, verse 6. To whom hath the root of wisdom been revealed, or who hath known her wise counsels? Unto whom hath the knowledge of wisdom been made manifest, and who hath understood her great experience?
All right, so once again, for someone to start telling you about wisdom and understanding, they're going to first have to know that wisdom is the Holy Spirit. She's the earthly mother, all of that. They don't know that. They could tell you some wisdom, but how much wisdom can they give you? They can't give you the full in-depth outlook like how the church can give you, because we understand that. All right. If you don't know the root of her and who she is, how can you know fully her counsels? All right. How can you fully been made manifest the fullness of her knowledge if you never understood her experience, or even how wisdom came into being and what this energy source is that's giving us understanding? All right. And to know that it's feminine. All right. So once again, we're going to go right into the lesson. The sins of Sodom, Carnival, and Bacchanalia, the freeing of the flesh. All right, we're at 2 Corinthians 3:17.
It's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
All right, so the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord, there is liberty. So we have to understand something. A lot of people don't want to come to the church. They don't want to come into Christianity, right? Because they believe God is harsh. But in actuality, by coming to Christ, people have to understand that there's a liberation that happens when you're coming to Christ. All right, that you're free. You're free from, if you made this mistake, now you're punished, you're just going to hell. All right, that's done when you're in Christ. By coming to Christ, you have grace, all right, which is liberty, freedom. Not to do what you want, all right, but once again, the freedom to make a mistake and bounce back. That's what it is. It's not the freedom to continually make a mistake. It's the freedom to make a mistake and to be able to bounce back. And God not look at you a certain way. That's what the liberty is that's in Christianity. All right, we're going to go to the definition of liberty.
All right, this is the definition of liberty out of the Strong's Concordance. This is Greek 1657. Eleutheria, from G 1658. It has freedom, legitimate or licentious, chiefly moral or ceremonial, liberty.
All right, so liberty. All right, freedom. All right, chiefly moral or ceremonial. All right, meaning that, hey, freedom from, if you didn't do your religious stuff, guess what? Punishment. I hope you know in some places where you be in school and you see your friends coming from, we at the other side of the world, right? They're coming from Islamic culture, Muslim culture. In those places, they have religious officers. If you don't come to the Sabbath, so we're telling you don't come and don't play a game. If they see you, especially the children, you're going to get penalized, all right? Parents get penalized. if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, if you're not wearing the head wrap that your parents told you to wear. All right. So in this society, you're experiencing that freedom already, because you can go outside and they're like, you know what? It's Easter.
The battery's low. Battery's low.
You can go outside and it's Easter and you don't have to celebrate that. All right. It's Resurrection Day, which we call it. All right. There's different Christmas. The people who don't celebrate Christmas and not get punished, because there's freedom. That's what the freedom is that comes in Christianity, where you can now begin when you're ready to come to Christ. When he says come early, right? Don't come when you're at low strength, right? But you should come as quick as possible, right? But you have the freedom, once again, to operate morally and ceremonially, meaning that in the law, outside, and also in religious, all right? So you have the opportunity to make a mistake outside, just like the animals do, and not be penalized for it. All right, we're at liberty etymology. All right, so we're gonna go into the word breakdown of liberty.
It's the definition of liberty, etymology.
Look at the chart.
Okay. Switch this quick.
Was that the?
Yeah.
Oh, that was this. All right. So once again, we're at the word etymology of liberty.
All right. This is liberty, etymology. It's from the late 14th century. Free choice, freedom to do as one chooses. Also, freedom from bondage of sin. From Old French, liberté, freedom, liberty, free will. 14th century, modern French, liberté. From Latin, libertatum, nominative, libertas. Civil or political freedom, condition of a free man, absence of restraint, permission. From liber, free, see liberal, adjective. At first of persons, of communities, state of being free from arbitrary, despotic, or autocratic rule or control, is by the late 15th century.
All right. So once again, liberty is free choice, freedom to do as one chooses, freedom from sin. All right. Why am I going into this? All right. You're going to understand in a second, because I'm trying to explain that freedom comes from being in Christ, the church. This is true freedom to, once again, not be judged, all right? But have the opportunity to repent, all right? Not, when we say not be judged, doesn't mean you can continuously do what you're doing. Once again, it's the freedom, once again, to be able to bounce back. All right, and from that bondage of sin, because with sin, you make one mistake, going back to Adam, one mistake, and you're finished. All right. He just didn't eat one thing. All right. I asked the other day the children if they ate something that their parent told them they never should have ate. And everybody did that. Like, you know what? He took that, ate that. All right. There's no child in there that can tell me they ain't eat something their parent told them they didn't eat, supposed to eat. They could lie. All right. But even I know. I ate something my parent told me not to eat. Where it's like, hey, they said, yo, that's mine. He's like, yo, all right. That was a good question. Yo, you ate that. All right. So now we're going to get into it. We're going to 1 Peter 2 and 13.
It's the book of 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men, as free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of God.
All right, so what is this saying? It's saying submit yourself to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake. So it's saying you should submit yourself to the boss. All right, why? Because once again, the company's there, God put it there. If you're there, right, you should submit so the company can operate. You shouldn't be bringing disruption. Disruption is of the devil. All right, we're about union. All right, so it says submit yourself to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to a king as supreme. So someone might be looking at the king and be like, I don't want to submit to the king. He's just man. He's just this. We're understanding that that's honoring God, right? God is saying, all right, use your grace. You don't believe you should use your grace for that, to honor these individuals, governors, right? Once again, they're there to what? To punish evildoers. All right. He's saying to honor them, to use our grace for these instances and not just for, or, I used my grace yesterday. I wasn't supposed to do something, but I did it. Let me say sorry for that. He's saying to use our grace for good things. All right. Where, hey, normally I wouldn't, I'm not able to go, it's Sabbath, it's this thing here happened where you're able to do something that's good for somebody. Right, and not just using the grace when it's for your own sin, your own purpose, which a lot of people, that's what we use the grace for, when it's for our own covering of our own sin, instead of using it to make peace with somebody. All right, to be in union with somebody you really wouldn't be in union with, just out of respect. All right. And that doesn't mean to honor their doctrine. All right. That means, hey, you see them outside, they're coming in the door. You're not gonna be like, because they're this thing, I'm not gonna open the door for them because I seen somebody that deals with Islam outside, or a Muslim. That's what it means. All right. Hey, that's fine. We don't deal with that. We're using the grace to open up the door, to give mercy onto our enemies, to show them that same love. All right. That's what we should be using the grace for, not for our own personal sins. All right. And that's what we're to do with our liberty. All right. So we're going to go into cloak. All right. Because we shouldn't use it as a cloak of maliciousness. What is a cloak? Cloak definition.
So definition of cloak out of the Strong's Concordance. This is Greek 1942. Epikaluma. From 1943. A covering, that is figuratively pretext, cloak.
All right. So a cloak. A pretext, a covering. All right, so a cloak is a covering, a pretext. And you're going to see that is an example of a cape. A cape is a cloak, a covering. All right, a pretext. We're going to get into pretext because a lot of people like to use pretext and not think that someone could see what a pretext is. All right, we're going to go into pretext etymology. All right, we'll break down this word.
The etymology of pretext. Pretext, noun. That which is assumed as a cloak or means of concealment. 1510s. From French, pretexte. From Latin, pretextum. A pretext, outward display. Noun use of neuter past participle of pretexere. To disguise. Cover, literally, weave in front. For sense, compare, pull the wool over someone's eyes. From pre, in front, see pre plus texare, to weave. From pi root text, to weave, also to fabricate. Also from the 1510s.
All right, so pretext. All right, something that's used, all right, that which is assumed as a cloak or means of concealment. You're using something as a means of concealment. All right, meaning that, an example, you're in the class, you really don't want to listen right now. So you're like, let me use the bathroom real quick so you can go outside. All right, you don't really want to use the bathroom, but you're using the bathroom to cover up that you just want to relax or, go on a break real quick. All right, that's a pretext. All right, where you're using something to cover up the true nature of what you're really trying to do. An outward display. All right, that's what you're showing outwardly, but that's not really what's happening inwardly. To disguise, to use something as a cover. Another example, tell a parent, all right, or telling someone you're going this place and you're not really going that place, all right? But you're using that to what? To head outside, to get the reason to go outside. But that's not what you're going outside for. That's a pretext, all right? Because you use an excuse as a means of cloak to get the reason to go, to do something, to get the okay, but that's not really what you're going to do. All right, you use it as a disguise. All right, so we're just showing what a pretext is, an outwardly display that's used to conceal what's really going on. And the perfect example of a pretext is a cape, because the cape covers up the whole thing. All right, the cape is the cape is a cloak. All right. All right, so once again, not to use your sin, I mean, your liberty as a cloak of maliciousness, all right, to go and do sin. You have liberty, so you can just go here and do this, because that's what a lot of people do. You'll see them, and this is what I'm seeing too. It's funny too, because the other day, I'm going into the Carnival lesson, and I'm like, you know, these examples, because people will be like, you know what, I'm Christian, I'm this, I'm that, right? And they'll use this stuff, but then, right, you don't want to be the example of the thing that we're speaking about. You get what I'm saying? So I'm going through the Carnival pictures to find just random pictures. I'm like, yo, I'm seeing somebody, once again, I know that they're Christian. They say they wouldn't do this. They'll be in some conscious stuff, but yo, they're in the picture for the Carnival. I'm like, yo, I'm not going to use this picture, but I'm like, yo, I'm just looking up a regular picture, and it's, you don't want to be the example. This is the perfect thing where you're caught there, you're on the thing. Now, when it's time for someone to point out an example, you're the example. All right, you're caught being the example, which is why he says, once again, Paul says to be aware of who's around you, stumbling blocks, this and that nature, right? That you have to be mindful when you're using your liberty to do what you shouldn't be doing. Right, because somebody else see and they're going to be like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Or they don't even know about your liberties.
Yeah, or they don't know what your liberty is and what you can do, right? So they're judging you now, right? But you're to be aware of what's happening, all right? So we're going to go into maliciousness definition, all right? We're just setting the tone before we get into the full understanding of what the topic is here. We got to understand this liberty, this freedom, this using liberty as a cloak to do sin, wickedness. All right, so we're at maliciousness definition.
So definition for maliciousness. This is out of the Greek's concordance, Strong's concordance. This is Greek 2549. Kaklia or kakia from 2556. Badness, that is subjectively depravity, or actively malignity, or passively trouble, evil, malice, maliciousness, naughtiness, wickedness.
All right. So an example for that, all right? When we're coming to the church, I'm like, you know what? I had to stop what I'm doing, right? I'm selling poison to people. I'm selling drugs to people. I'm like, I can't use, oh, I'm in God, I'm in Christ, I'm in this, to now continually do this and be like, you know what? But I need money, so I need to, you know, I'm going to use it to continuously make money and be like, you know, God, you know, have grace on me. But, you know, the money that I get, I'm also helping the church. Like, that, you can't use grace to do that for wickedness. You see what I'm saying? You can't use the liberty to do badness, all right? And a continual badness. Because whatever you're using the grace for, it's bad. But we're talking about to continuously do something, all right? Using it as a cloak to do this thing, all right? And using it knowingly, all right? Knowingly wanting to do evil things by using the liberty, and not you just falling into it being, you know what, that's something I struggle with, and it's naturally, it just, I tried to, you're fighting and it happened, so yo, the grace is used for that. It's not for you to just go out and be free in the sin. All right, so we can't use the liberty as a cloak to go and do badness. All right, that's what we're getting to. All right, but in Christ, there is liberty, right? To where if badness does happen, there's grace that can be pardoned onto you for forgiveness. All right, so now that brings us to the whole topic again. All right, the sins of Sodom, Carnival, and Bacchanalia, the freeing of the flesh. All right, we're going to get into it. We're going to go into the Old Testament. We're at Genesis 18 and 20.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 18, verse 20. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know.
All right, so the Most High, all right, he's dealing with Abraham, Lot, them down there. He's now saying because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, because their sin is very grievous. So Sodom and Gomorrah, the land, was doing grievous sins, and the land was crying out. When you go into a cry, right, a cry is a declaration. I'm not even put it all in here, but a cry is a declaration. So certain laws that they had when you go into Jasher, they're making, and that's what God is saying when he hears the cries. He's hearing the laws, the declarations screaming out from the land, and they don't sound right. All right, it's great. And the sin is grievous, what the cry is hearing. All right, so now he's saying he's going to go down and see whether they have done altogether to the cry of it. So he's going to see now if they did according to what they're declaring. That's what he's saying. I'm going to go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it. So that same declaration, he's now like, all right, I hear the declarations up here. I'm going to go down and see, yo, is this really what's going on down here? Is this really what I'm hearing from these declarations? These heinous sins that you're putting into law and practice? All right, so once again, we're going to be mindful that God, in the situation we're in right now, when you're hearing certain laws pass and you're seeing certain education in the school, God is hearing, that's a cry. Those are declarations. God is hearing that. The only thing next now is for him to send down angels, those them to be like, yo, is that really happening in the land? Because sometimes, once again, he's way up there. He's like, he's not really paying attention like that, right? He knows what's going on, right? But he ain't confirmed physically to send an angel to go firm, right? He already knows what's going on, though. But he ain't actually did it physically. So now he's doing it physically by sending angels saying, yo, we're going to go down and see if they're doing according to their declarations. All right, we're going to go to grievous. All right. So their sin was very grievous.
It's the definition of grievous. Out of the Strong's Concordance, this is Hebrew 35:13. This is kabad or kabed, primitive root to be heavy, that is, in a bad sense, burdensome, severe, dull, or in a good sense, numerous, rich, honorable, causatively to make weighty, in the same two senses, abounding with, more grievously afflict, boast, be chargeable. Be dim, glorify. Be, make glorious, glorious things. Glory, very great, be grievous, harden. Be, make heavy, be heavier. Lay heavily, bring to, come to, do, get, be, hadden. Honor, self, be honorable, honorable man. Laid, more be laid. Make self many, nobles, prevail, promote, to honor, be rich, be, go soar, stop.
All right, so once again, the Hebrew word is one word, all right, and basically a bunch of words can be used to describe this one word, all right? Because the Hebrew sense uses one word can mean so many things, this word, all right? So once again, it means to be heavy. But in the same sense, to be heavy means something could be burdensome. All right. The same sense, to be heavy, something could be honorable because you're giving somebody heavy praise. All right. Promotion could also be this word because promotion is heavy. That's once again, for you to be promoted, they're like, hey, heavy praise. When someone's promoting you, they're going to come to you and say, hey, you've been a good individual, so you getting a promotion. All right. So this is where the word heavy is coming from, and then it's used different ways. All right, glorify. All right, nobles, people who are noble. Once again, heavy praise. To be rich, all right? To be rich, you have abundance, which means you have a lot of things. You have weight. All right, so this is what grievous is. Grievous means to be heavy, all right? Heavy, weight. All right, so their sin was very grievous, very heavy sin they had. All right, burdensome sin when it's in a bad sense. All right, we're going to go to Ecclesiastes 3:9.
the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 9. The thing that had been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It had been already of old time, which was before us.
All right, so once again, it says that thing which has been is that which shall be done. There's no new thing under the sun. You heard of deja vu? This is where deja vu comes from. That, hey, you've seen this before. This has happened before. The real deja vu is that things are repeating again, which means the Old Testament, from it was finished and Christ died and resurrected, it's being repeated again in a different way. All right, to where he's going to come back again the same way in the Old Testament when he came. Right, but this time it's the second coming. Right, everything is just being repeated abstractly. All right, there's no new thing under the sun. So we're going into this understanding again that the things that we're about to read about and that we're reading about, they're going to happen again. There's no new thing. So they're on a repeat cycle. And that's why we have the repeat symbol there, where it's just a cycle of continual happening. Nothing different. Right, there's different climate, different day, different year, different way, but the same principles, same instances. All right, so now we're going to get into it. We're at Ezekiel 16 and 48.
This is the book of the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 16, verse 48. As I live, saith the Lord God, Sodom thy sister hath not done, she nor her daughters as thou hast done, thou and thy daughters. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy.
All right, so God says, as I live, saith the Lord, Sodom, thy sister, has not done, all right, because Sodom was right not too far, right, from where Israel is. She nor her inhabitants. So when it says her daughters is her inhabitants. So the land is looked at as a female, all right, and the people are looked at as daughters, all right. And then once again, the countries are always looked at as female. So saying, hey, that's your sister, right? Your sister Sodom, right? And you're a daughter. You're looked at as a female right now, as a nation, right? Your sister Sodom has not done, nor her daughters, nor her people, as thou hast done, thou and thy daughter. So the first thing we want to nip in the butt is that everyone wants to go to Sodom and what Sodom did. God already said that Israel has done worse than Sodom. All right, so we have to understand. We want an example. It's no more Sodom. First of all, Israel did worse than Sodom. All right, and then he lays out the sin that Sodom did, because people be looking, oh, Sodom did this, that. There's much worse than what's happening in Sodom. All right, and he said this was the sin of Sodom. Pride. So they had pride, fullness of bread. So when we get into that just means they were eating their bread too much. It's not even going into flesh eating. All right. And they were idle, meaning they weren't keeping themselves busy with stuff and working. All right. And they didn't help the poor. All right. So pride, fullness of bread, abundance of idleness, and they didn't help strengthen the hand of the poor. Those are the things that they didn't do. All right.
Fullness of bread. Could that also mean like they weren't for nothing? They didn't need anything. Everything was provided.
Yes. Everything was provided for them. They're eating everything to their cup fulleth. All right. So you begin to get lazy. All right. That culture starts to happen. All right. So we're gonna get into a book right now. All right. We're gonna get into the monastic institutes, and it's gonna give us a more in-depth look at that verse and what it's saying about those sins that Sodom did.
This is the Monastic Institutes, the training of a monk in the 8 deadly sins, chapter 6. The mind is not intoxicated by wine alone. The belly, when filled with all kinds of food, gives birth to seeds of wantonness. Nor can the mind, when choked with the weight of food, keep the guidance and government of the thoughts. For not only is the drunkenness with wine wont to intoxicate the mind, but excess of all kinds of food makes it weak and uncertain, and robs of all its power of pure and clear contemplation. The cause of the overthrow and wantonness of Sodom was not drunkenness through wine, but fullness of bread. Hear the Lord rebuking Jerusalem through the prophet. For how did thy sister Sodom sin, except in that she ate her bread in fullness and abundance? And because through fullness of bread they were inflamed with uncontrollable lust of the flesh, they were burnt up by the judgment of God with fire and brimstone from heaven. But if excess of bread alone drove them to such a headlong downfall into sin through the vice of satiety, what shall we think of those with a vigorous body dare to partake of flesh and wine with unbounded license, taking not just what their bodily frailty demands, but what the eager desire of the mind suggests?
All right, so we're seeing here, all right, once again, when they're going to study the deadly sins and all of that, everyone's always going to look at Sodom. And this is why we're going to outside. Well, this is not a religious book. This is a spiritual text, right? But going into this, right, they're always going to go to Sodom and look at these examples, all right? And what happened there that translates now into this uncontrollable freeing of the flesh, all right? And it's saying now that when the belly is filled with all kinds of food, all right, so when it's all kinds of different foods, all right, it gives birth to seeds of wantonness. Because once again, we're understanding that the physical is a reflection of the spiritual, all right? Unless, once again, you're spiritual now, and now somebody can't judge that because what you're doing, they're gonna be like, hey, usually I can see that, but once again, the spiritual person is using their grace. This is hard to kind of see. All right, but in these instances, when you're just dealing with regular people and they're eating different types of food, we know that, hey, somebody pop up and, hey, you can tell they're eating all different types of food. I don't think they're going to be spiritually well right now, all right, and telling me they've been praying and doing this, and they could try to lie, all right, but this is the thing that it's saying here, right? We know by you eating these different things, you're dealing with certain different things that's going to give you different advices, right? There's people lying to themselves, right? It's telling us that the food gives birth to seeds of wantonness, all right? Nor can the mind, when choked with the weight of food, keep guidance and government, all right, of the thought. So you're like, yo, I want to do this. You want to do good, but you can't do good right now because the food is choking it. All right, and it says not only is drunkenness with wine to want to intoxicate the mind, but access of all kinds of food. So you don't just get drunk. Right, the drunkenness, once again, is an example that God could show you that, hey, that same thing is happening to you mentally with food. You can see it, though, with the alcohol drink. You just understand that same thing is happening with the individual's thoughts, but they can't see it. They can't understand it, right? They're going to think they're fine, all right? And it says, but all kinds of food makes it weak and uncertain and robs it of its power and clear contemplation. So eating different types of food and having a bad diet is robbing you from clear contemplation. You can't contemplate things properly if you're not eating properly. Which is why even in schools, why do schools have the food, the breakfast program? Because they know that, hey, I can't program you if you're not even eating properly, right? So they be like, yo, if you don't have things, at least come to us. In the school, right, has things where they be trying to help individuals, because they can't teach you anything if you don't have a consistent diet, right? And eating proper things in the morning. They tell you what to eat in the morning, all right? And it tells you the cause of the wantonness of Sodom was not drunkenness through wine, but fullness of bread. So a lot of people, when you mention Sodom, they're just only going to go to homosexuality. That's what they're going to go to. Gays and lesbians and all of that. But that's what happened after. Right, where it all comes from is they're overeating. They can't think properly. They're being suggested different things. They can't contemplate now. Now they're choosing different things. They're choosing different sins because of the fullness of bread. And we're not even talking about wine. They weren't even drinking at that time. This is not even alcohol influence. This is not even meat influenced. All right, there's no barbecue going on. All right, there's no jerk pork. There's none of that. All right. Yeah, it's just bread, fullness of bread. Yeah, bread till they're full.
Check out that word, satiety.
Satiety. satiety. All right, fullness, glutted. All right, state of being glutted, feeling of disgust caused by eating too much. All right, so it's another word for basically gluttony. All right, being too full. All right, so now it says, once again, if excess of bread alone drove them to such a headlong downfall into sin. So if they're just overeating bread, and that led them into sin, all right, what about those who partake, right, unvigorously, unboundedly, with no license, flesh and wine and alcohol? Their thoughts and what they're going to do is going to be even worse. All right, taking not just what their bodily frailty demands, but what the eager desire of the mind suggests. So now it's not just about the food now and what them suggesting different foods to you now. Now it's saying, you know what? I think you should do this. You know what? I think you should kiss a girl and you like it. All right, this is what it starts to say now. All right, this is what they're teaching in the schools now. All right. Oh, gentlemen, I think, you know what? I think it's cool for me to paint my nails. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Right? Yeah, I think it's cool. I think
coming out with his own line.
yeah, I think I could put Hello Kitty on my pinky and I think it's fine. All right? This is the thoughts that start to come to your mind now.
Fullness of bread.
Yeah, fullness of bread. Now they're like, you know what?
Archbishop, and even the word wanton also means resistant to control, so it can't be controlled.
Wantons can't control. Always want. All right, so this is what we're seeing. All right, so the number one reason for the sins leading to Sodom is an overeating lifestyle. All right, this is the number one reason. All right, so now we're going to get into the book of Jasher, and we're just going to go in now and look at a particular sin that was happening in the land of Sodom. All right, so we're at Jasher 18 and 11. All right, and we just have to remember that these things are written long time before this come to pass. All right, the Jasher is written thousands of years ago. All right, remember, there's no new thing under the sun. We're about to look at details. Everyone's here. We especially have witnesses in Toronto. We can see if these details sound very familiar, like deja vu. All right, Jasher 18 and 11.
It's the book of Jasher, chapter 18, verse 11. In those days, all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. And they provoked the Lord with their abominations, and they strengthened in aging abominably and scornfully before the Lord. And their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before the Lord. And they had in their land a very extensive valley, about a half day's walk. And in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water.
All right, so once again, so in those days, all the people of Sodom, the whole 5 cities, they're exceedingly wicked. All right, it's not just one city. This is 5 cities. This is the GTA. All right, it's not just Toronto. This is Mississauga. This is Brampton. They all in cahoots. All right. Wait, I'm just using a lot of history. It would be the same thing, yeah.
Because a lot of times when they mention Sodom and Gomorrah, it actually consists of all the 5 cities.
Yeah.
Cities.
Yeah, they just use the 2 major
That's
ones.
the 2 bigger ones.
People are coming from other countries to it too.
Yeah, of course they're gonna come to other, right? Well, maybe at this time they're just saying, yo, the 5 cities. It's not even stretching that far yet. Remember, they don't have like flyers to send out to be like, yo, the jam's going. You know what I mean? If you in that city, you gonna know. All right, so the 5 cities. All right, they're exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. All right, they're provoking him with their abominations. All right, they're strengthening and aging abominably, scornfully. All right, their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before the Lord. So their wickedness and crimes are becoming great before the Lord. All right, this is the part where now zoning into. They had in their land a very extensive valley, about a half a day's walk, and in it there was fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. So we're seeing an event that they're liking to keep around the waters. All right. We know that in Toronto right now, there's an event around the waters. All right. Particularly, they're locking down Lakeshore Drive. All right. And here we see, once again, where do they like to set up? They like to be set up around the waters, surrounding waters, fountains of waters. All right. Give us verse 12 and continue for us.
It's the book of Joshua, chapter 18, verse 12. And they had in their land a very extensive valley, about a half a day's walk, and in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times in the year, with their wives and children and all belonging to them. And they rejoiced there with their timbrels and dances. And in the same time of rejoicing, they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. And each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor, and did not say a word. And they did so from morning to night. And they afterward returned home, each man to his house, and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year.
All right, so here we're seeing all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there to this water place 4 times. So their event, they were celebrating 4 times a year. 4 times a year they were going to this spot. Their wives and all their children belonging. So this was a family, everybody going, all right, to this event. This is a big event.
What I see on my way here, families going to the...
You see families.
I live right down
here.
here, so yeah.
All right.
Women wearing nothing and then kids falling behind them.
Yeah, their wives, their children, all belonging to them. They rejoice with timbrels and dances. All right. Timbrels and dances, bring them down there. All right. And yeah, people bring them. Carnival people, they're like, yo, they want to get their children to the carnival. So they would have dressed them up, brought them to the little kiddie one, right? They're already grooming them to be like, yo, you're going to be a carnival bear when you go down, right? He showed them the waistline, all of that. They already start grooming them into the lifestyle.
What are you talking about, Archbishop? Because even in the Caribbean, we have a section.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the babies and all that.
Yeah, the babies and everything they put in there. Yeah, they're grooming them to be like, you're the next generation of carnivals, all right? And get your picture in the thing. And they be like, oh, it's so cute. And, we're going to get into all of this today, all right? So once again, in this time, they would all raise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives and some virgin daughters of their neighbor. Because what are they doing? At these events, they're allowing people to dance. So if your parent allows you to go to this event, there's no way they're going to be angry that you're dancing. Because that's what the event is about. All right, so if you go there, your parent knows that you're most likely some guy is going to come to you, all right, or you're going to get hold of some girl, all right, and you're going to dance, all right, and they're like, it's just play right now. It's all just play. It's just playing. It's just fun. It's just celebration. All right, and once again, people will go, partners go. So partners separate, couples separate and go. All right, I've had Reggie where, once again, I've seen it now. I'm like, yo, they're both going to these events, and once again, oh, someone danced with someone over there, and someone, because this is gonna start to pop up now, right? And oh, yo, you didn't tell me you're going to that one, and someone, got caught dancing over there a rude way, right? Now he getting the picture, the video back. Look, what's going on?
That's not Caribbean people. Caribbean people, we already expect that, so we don't even fuss it.
Yeah, but they do expect it. But once again, like what I was saying, it's, they didn't know. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's different if you're out going there, this is like an event you didn't know. Like, you said you didn't go to no event. That didn't happen. You get what I'm saying? But dancing is guanin. All right? So, once again, people start to do it unexpected. And they're like, oh, this. And then, someone got back and be like, oh, look, I seen them dancing over here. This is when, because the expectation is if you're both going to a thing, then that's what it's going to be. But it's now into the particulars now. I seen you dancing over here. That's when the feelings come. All right. But once again, just going into that, they're supposed to, it's a huge thing to be able to hold and not say nothing. All right. That's what God is showing here. Each man saw his wife and even his daughter, and he didn't even say nothing. His virgin daughter. right? And didn't say nothing, held his tongue. It's hard for a man not to say nothing or people not to say stuff when, you know, you can say that, but seeing somebody relying on the person that you love, like, you know what I'm saying? That's hard to keep in there. All right, they did so from morning to night. So they did that from morning to night. So if we're understanding, it's morning to night. They stopped in the nighttime. They didn't continue in the night. So even theirs is not as bad, because in the other ones, they're continuing all night to the morning.
Well, even when
Morning to morning.
it even says now it's 3 days. It's clear, but it's not just one day. It's from today till Monday.
Yeah. Well, they have different things, not on the glacier, but they have different other little festivals now. Yeah. All right. So once again, they did this 4 times a year. All right. And just looking at the picture again, this is the fun. This is the revelation of the flesh. And we have a lesson too, revelation of the flesh. What happened before the flood. All right. We're just starting here to show what's going on and how it translated after the flood. But before the flood is a whole other thing where we're coming out with lesson revelation of the flesh. Where the same things happened with Cain's children. They started doing the same stuff and wearing the same colors, and the angels came down. The angels like that look too. So on a day like this, I'm guaranteeing you, yo, no new thing under the sun. There's some angels that's trying to resist right now. They're trying to hold back. They're like, yo, the daughters of men right now. They're wearing the colors again. All right? They're showing the flesh again. I mean, we said there's no new thing under the sun. I'm saying, we don't know if they think that. They're definitely, once again, that feeling is there. We ain't saying they falling. That feeling is there. Like, yo, they wearing the stuff again. Yeah, like even us would be there. You're like, yo, I don't want to see that. Why you don't want to see that? Right? Because, yo, you're like, yo, I don't want to, you know what I mean? Get tempted on, you know what I mean? Yeah. All right. So we're going to go to Carnival. We're going to go to etymology of Carnival.
It's the etymology of the word carnival. Carnival, a noun from the 1540s. Time of merrymaking before Lent. From French carnaval, from Italian carnaval. Shrove Tuesday, from older Italian forms such as Milanese. Carnaval, Old Pisan. Carnivare, to remove meat, literally raising flesh. From Latin caro, flesh, originally a piece of flesh. From pi root, scur, to cut. Levare, lighten, raise, remove. From pi root, leg, not heavy, having little weight. Folk etymology has it from medieval Latin carnival, flesh, farewell. Attested from 1590s in the figurative sense of feasting or revelry in general. The meaning, a circus or amusement fair, is attested by 1926 in American English, also from the 1540s.
All right, so we're seeing Carnival. So this is the new word they put on it, and we're going to get into why it's called Carnival now, because they're trying to convince people of something, and it starts at the church. That's where it happened at. All right, but the word, once again, is caro, which means flesh or piece of flesh. All right, and lever, all right, which is to remove. All right, so removing a piece of flesh or removing the flesh. All right, or flesh farewell. So saying farewell to the flesh. So Carnival is supposed to be, once again, all right, it also is merrymaking before Lent. So this is its true nature. So you're going to understand that this event comes from the church. So it really takes place before Lent, because they're about to say they're about to serious up. And by serious up, they're enjoying themselves fully. That's their excuse, once again, the cloak to do the sin. All right, we're going to enjoy ourselves fully and fully let go our flesh before we get into the Lenten season, right? Which is the 40-day fast, where they put away stuff.
So this is the feast before the famine.
This is a feast before the famine. This is them saying, this is how they say farewell to the flesh.
So they're removing the flesh, but these guys are showing the flesh.
No, well, they do the same thing. So this, you're going to see that the church, it starts from the church. So the church was doing, this is where the practice comes from. All right?
That's why Mardi Gras is before Lent.
Correct.
It says, what, Shrove Tuesday and Carnival, the time when It's all, for all Caribbean countries, it falls on Tuesday.
Yeah, because they start copying what what they start seeing the Europeans doing. Because remember, they would say that it's after this or that, but they don't have none of the stuff from Egypt to have a likeness of, right? So they're just using the European ones. All right. So once again, Carnival means saying farewell to the flesh. All right. All right. It means saying farewell to the flesh. All right. And there we have somebody basically, once again, you're supposed to be taking a trip. Basically, you're taking a trip on the plane and you're saying bye. You're leaving the flesh and you're gone to somewhere. You're gone to spirituality. That's what you're saying. That's what it's supposed to be happening. You're supposed to be saying, hey, I'm packing up flesh. I'm taking a trip, gone. I'm never coming back. All right. That's what Carnival means. All right. It's supposed to represent a farewell to fleshly desires. All right. So we're going to go to the Smithsonian Magazine. And we're just going to take in a brief history on Carnival. All right. And we're going to get an extensive history from the Smithsonian Magazine. All right. A credible source. So we're going to go into that and you're going to see how it breaks this down for us.
From the Smithsonian Magazine, it's a brief history of how Carnival is celebrated around the world. Here's how Venice, Rio de Janeiro, Trinidad and Tobago, New Orleans, and Quebec City mark the pre-Lenten season. Carnival has always been a festival of mysteries, marked by a sense of finality. It celebrates the end of one season and the beginning of another, providing a release before a period of grief and solemnity, at least in the Christian tradition. The celebration's name is likely derived from the medieval Latin phrases carnum levare and carna levarium, which refer to the removal of meat. In Catholicism, Carnival precedes a 40-day period of fasting known as Lent. Shrove Tuesday, also known as Mardi Gras, marks not only the last day of Carnival, but also the last day observants can eat meat and enjoy other indulgences before Lent.
All right, so here we're seeing, once again, Carnival always been a festival of mysteries. All right, celebrates the end of one season, the beginning of another. All right. The name comes from carnum levere, once again, which means removal of meat, removal of the flesh. So you see meat here, but we know the word really means flesh. Flesh is really the word. All right, removal of flesh, not meat. All right. In Catholicism, Carnival precedes a 40-day period of fasting known as Lent. So once again, after Carnival, they get into, all right, we're going into the Lent season. So this practice, once again, is originating from the church that's now spread wild. And you'll see, no one wants to do the church. They're like, oh, I don't like Christianity. I don't like Christianity. But then they're celebrating Carnival. They won't give that up. Right? This is how God catches people. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to say that's the white man's.
And you can see them, like, even on my street, like, the men, it's like, guys are just waiting to go see all the flesh, right? You can see it in the energy.
And people don't know what they're doing. Once again, I was there one time and we're in the elevator, we're all celebrating, and they came in the elevator like, what are you guys celebrating? We're all like, yo, for real, what is it? Like, we heard stuff. It's like I think they were like, someone came out and said, you know, I think it's sort of slavery or one of that stuff. But no one had for sure, no one knew the origin or nothing, right? But we're seeing right now, it comes from the church. It marks you saying farewell to your flesh by indulging in the fullness of your flesh before now going basically cold turkey. All right. So once again, Carnival precedes a 40-day period of fasting known as Lent. So after Carnival comes 40 days of fasting. All right. And the end of Carnival is marked by Mardi Gras, which is also known as Shrove Tuesday. All right. And then once again, they get into Wednesday. Wednesday is the Ash Wednesday. All right. So right after that, they get into the spiritual practices, so-called. All right, so Carnival is a Christian thing. It's coming from Christianity now in today's time, and then it's spreading outwardly. All right, this is the one thing that all the Caribbeans is taking from Christianity with no problem, but don't want to be Christians. All right, everyone who's out there celebrating right now would believe that they're not partaking in a Christian festival when it's a Christian festival. All right, but continue for us. All right, and also in Lent, they stop eating meat. So you're seeing the meat there. So it's a practice to, hey, they're putting away certain meats and they just go and try to eat fish and different things and try to stay away from meats. Because once again, it's all a symbol of the flesh and sin. All right, but continue for us.
Though Carnival is widely associated with Christianity, its origins may actually predate that religion. Some sources trace Carnival back to ancient Rome's Saturnalia festivals, celebrated around mid-December in honor of the god Saturn, father of Jupiter. Others suggest it started out in ancient Egypt. Either way, calling Carnival a tradition with exclusively Western or Christian roots is likely too limiting. Today, the winter festival is celebrated in more than 50 countries around the world, including Brazil, Italy, Switzerland, Trinidad and Tobago, and the United States.
All right, so 50 countries around the world. So right now, if you're going to trace it, it's going to trace back to the church. But once again, it traced back to Sodom and Gomorrah, right? From Sodom and Gomorrah, it's tracing back into Egypt. From Egypt, it's tracing back into before the flood, where we get into revelation of the flesh, the children of Cain, the daughters of Cain. All right, and the falling of the angels. All right, once again, you have to understand, fallen angels, they like carnival women based on the scriptures. That's what made them fall. And we had giants. Okay, so we just putting this in perspective. All right, so once again, this celebration, 50 countries around the world is celebrating a Christian festival. And I don't think many of them understand. I'm pretty sure the European nations understand, but I don't think the Negro nations understand. And you're going to see that they try to make up their own excuse. All right, but continue for us.
Carnival during the medieval era. During the Middle Ages, the church combined the pagan and Christian strains of Carnival into something altogether different. Beginning in the mid-12th century, the reigning pope traveled on horseback to Monte Testaccio, an incline in Rome built mainly out of discarded amphora fragments, to preside over the ludus carnivallari, a celebration that pitted noble families against each other in duels, jousting, bullfights, and other competitions. In one game, carts of live pigs were thrown out from the top of the hill, leaving the townspeople below clamoring to catch the meat.
All right, so here we're seeing in the mid-12th century, the Pope, all right, is traveling, all right, and he's going to a place, and they now putting in a celebration, all right, that's pitting noble families against each other in duels, jousting, bullfights, competition, right? So you're going to see that this is bringing back the carnival vibe. Because guess what? Carnival is not just about dancing and stuff. Remember, what's also called carnival? All right? Who is also in the carnival? Which character is in the carnival everyone knows about? All right? Who performs in the carnival? For children. Clown. There you go. All right? So carnival is not just about the dancing part and the...
That's more of a circus, though.
It's still carnival. It's all carnival. This is what we're seeing right here.
That's true, it is.
Yeah.
They used to take people that look foreign to them and use them as like characters.
Yeah, and put them inside of there and use them, yeah.
Because the circus as a whole, you have the tents, whereas actually that's the circus. And then outside you buy popcorn. It's like a carnival type game.
Yeah, it's a carnival circus. It's all together. They're just separating it now where you can't see the fullness. And guess what? When
Performing at the end of the day.
correct, they're still performing, all right? And they're still doing that stuff.
Now I can see why McDonald's would use like Ronald McDonald the clown to promote the fun, the
Right? Disney World, right?
children. Yeah.
And then when we're gonna get into, you're gonna see why you hear rumors of what? So they're taking children from here. Remember, the setup of this, we're getting into the nature of what this event even is. So if you're bringing your children to see the clowns and the carnival, that's just to get them there, all right? You're forgetting the nature behind everything there.
Well, in the story Pinocchio goes off with a friend Ludwig, and Ludwig's a bad kid, and Ludwig's leading Pinocchio astray, causing him to lie and do all these things. And then finally they get caught by these child traffickers. They say, hey, we're going to the carnival. And they bring him to a carnival, and they start eating all this food at the carnival, having fun, but then they start turning into donkeys, jackasses.
And that's in Pinocchio?
That's in Pinocchio.
Oh, I haven't watched that. Yeah. Right? Well, just showing you the carnival, and once again, carnival full of deception, the games of deception, all of that. So they're already lying to you there, all right? It's not a proper environment.
It's not magic.
Yeah, it's magic trick. Once again, it's the circus. They're deceiving you. Sleight of hand, sleight of hate. Took a child. That stuff happens. All right. So once again, this is coming from the Pope. The Pope brings this in, and he's bringing this celebration. All right. So we're gonna continue.
Shortly after Pope Paul II assumed leadership of the church in 1464, he created the Renaissance Carnival, which harkened back to Rome's ancient traditions. Over 8 days during carnival season, the Pope organized races between members of the same animal species, like buffaloes and donkeys, as well as assorted groups of people such as children and the elderly. The Via Lata became the site of these games, eventually inspiring the street's current name, Via del Corso, which stems from the Italian word for race.
All right, so they were having competition. The carnival has competition, races, games. Once again, carnival is not just the dancing and the revelation of the flesh part. There's the games part. So what we're seeing is before we even get to that part coming back, the Pope is bringing in the games part. He's putting in this Renaissance thing. He's bringing back some of Rome's stuff that they were doing before. It's the Pope that's doing this. The Pope is doing this. All right, continue for us.
On the final night of the carnival season, Shrove Tuesday, locals stormed the Via del Corso wearing masks and holding candles as part of a procession called the Festa dei Morcoletti. The raucous event was an excuse to truly let loose, often in a violent way. According to the Roman Tourism Department's website, participants screamed death to anyone who is not carrying a candle. They also attempted to snuff out others' lights while maintaining their own.
All right, so once again, so before the Shrove Tuesday, so before they're like, oh, we're going to get into being religious, they're basically going all out in the flesh. Ah! Right? Death to anyone not holding a candle. Ah! Right? Mask, everything out there. All right? It kind of reminds me of, what's that? What's that? Huh?
Purge.
Yes, the Purge. Yes, the Purge. Yes, that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
that all in my mind, they were in the mask.
Yeah, they're coming out. It's a purge real quick. They're like, yo, that last day, it's like, oh, wow. Like, yo, if you don't see you wearing a candle, yo, stab him up.
And they're killing people, which is the flesh.
Right? Continue.
Rome is no longer the center of carnival celebrations, but the festival has taken on additional layers of meaning the world over. Individual countries have tweaked the holiday to fit their customs and uses, sometimes socially, sometimes politically, and sometimes purely for enjoyment. As the pre-Lenten season draws to a close in 2024, learn about 5 different carnival traditions from around the globe that represent the festival's historical breadth.
All right, so we're going to see some now. All right, so Rome is no longer the center of the carnival celebrations, but they're where the power came from. Once again, Rome tried to hide their power, the Catholic Church, but it's who they stem from. Once again, Mystery Babylon, the mother of all harlots. All right, it's coming from her. She's the one. She's caught in her hand, bringing it back and bringing it back the Roman stuff into the church. All right, so we're going to look at a couple of the carnivals that they have. All right, one of them, the Venice Carnival. That's the only one that's different, all right, that I've seen there. I'm like, you know what, let's go into the Venice one.
This is the Venice Carnival. Venice supplanted Rome as the main site of Italian carnival festivities by the 18th century. Like many later carnival celebrations, Venice's affairs were marked by the widespread use of masks, which created a temporary feeling of equality between the ruling class and the lower classes. The 6-week festival served as a placebo against the bad moods and tensions that were often generated within poorer classes toward the political system. According to Venice's official tourist guide, it was Giacomo Casanova, an adventurer and author born in Venice in 1725, who perhaps brought the most attention to the city's celebrations. His autobiography, History of My Life, chronicled not only his sexual conquests, but also the character of his home state, where one's image carried social currency.
All right, so there we see, right, them with the masks there. All right, this is what they're really dealing with.
They had on the mask to hide, like,
Yeah.
who's sleeping with who and who's messing with who.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
the reason why they have a mask.
Oh, definitely to hide who they are, so they can be really free, right? No one knows who you are.
Nobody knows what.
Correct. It's about freeing the flesh.
That's what the Illuminati do. They have those parties with the masks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's all coming from the carnival, the freeing of the flesh, all of those things here.
The clothes.
So
The cloak.
The leader doing it in closed doors with some really gnarly stuff where they be killing children, having sex with each other.
We're about to get into a lot of that.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, we're about to get into some
And then
behind the
rest
scenes
of the world
things.
gets the watered down version.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, we're just going to use law of nature principle and compare. All right, no new thing under the sun. All right, so Venice, after Rome, became the center of Carnival. So after Rome starts to, all right, go away from it, be like, yo, let's not get caught with it, it goes to Venice. Venice is in Italy. All right, and then from Venice, it starts to spread outward to other places. And then you see how far it's getting from you being able to be like, oh, it's coming from Rome. All right, some people don't even talk about Venice Carnival. All right, and this is the second place it came from. All right, so we're going to continue. All right, actually, there you go. So there in the picture, once again, mass revelers. This is at a Venice Carnival. So that's the Venice Carnival. That's what they're wearing. The same type of thing, all right? So we're going to continue.
In 1797, the Republic of Venice came under Austrian rule as part of an agreement between Napoleon Bonaparte and the Habsburg dynasty. The Austrians banned both carnival and mask wearing, and the tradition only survived thanks to artists on the Venetian islands of Burano and Murano. Almost 150 years later, Benito Mussolini's fascist regime upheld the prohibition, ensuring that Venice could not celebrate Carnival. But a resurgence in the 1970s led to the celebration that continued today.
All right, so in 1797, the Republic of Venice came under Austrian rule as a part of agreement between Napoleon, Bonaparte, and Habsburg dynasty. All right, so Austrians banned both carnival and mask wearing. So they banned it and said, yo, this needs to get out of here. All right, and it was banned from Venice, and Venice wasn't able to celebrate Carnival until the 1970s. So we're going to see Carnival starts to come back. It starts to become banned, and then it starts to come back on the scene again. And we're going to see why it becomes banned. All right, so we're about to get in some crucial information. Those who are online, please like. This is a moment to like and share. Like and share. We'll take a quick second, a quick break. Like and share. All right, before we go into this information, we're about to go into some important information. All right, so once again, like up before we begin. Let's see the likes go up.
Even like masquerade, you should get the definition of that as well.
All right, masquerade just means to wear a mask. All right, to wear a mask party, a dance. All right, masquerade. All right, the word comes from mask.
False show of pretense.
All right, so we're going to continue. We're now going to get into the Washington Post article on Canada's Caribbean Festival. All right, so we're going to get into that.
All right. Canada's biggest Caribbean festival is an epic show of island pride by Natalie Preddy. Toronto's Caribbean Festival enters its 55th year with masquerade parades, steel pan drums, and street food. Since its beginnings as a small parade in 1967, Toronto's Caribbean Carnival has become one of the world's largest celebrations of Caribbean culture. Titled Caribana until 2010, it annually attracts more than 1 million spectators with island-style parades, parties, food, and music. Beyond the annual long weekend, which starts Thursday, there is now a month full of activities. Carnivals are celebrated throughout the Caribbean on Emancipation Day weekend, typically the first weekend in August, to commemorate the abolition of slavery in the West Indies. In Toronto, it provides both a cultural and artistic connection between Canadians and Caribbean culture.
All right, so once again, Toronto's Caribbean Carnival. So that's what it's called now. All right, it's not called Caribana. We call it Caribana still, but it's called Toronto's Caribbean Carnival. All right, stop calling it Caravana in 2010. All right. And once again, it attracts a lot of people. And once again, we're seeing with these carnivals, it comes with food. In this day and age, food is at the carnival. All right, you're going there to eat food, the meats, the grill. That's a part of carnival. All right, we're gonna see that. Once again, the blacks, the Caribbeans, they're smart. They start to see that, hey, this is closely attached to Christian principles, so they start to make up their own reason on why they're celebrating. Their reason now is officially, if you're to ask any of these, right, organizations that are heading them now, they're going to say that it represents the abolition of slavery, the emancipation of slavery. So it's not no more about the freeing of the flesh no more, right? They've piggybacked off that to say, no, it represents us being free from slavery. So now that's a reason to celebrate and to, you know what, get into our flesh.
But back home, Archbishop has said that the reason why we were celebrating Carnival is because this is how when we were in slavery, Israel used to like have our own parties, how we used to do it.
That's all what they're making up. You see, they're making up, they want to substantiate the reason.
Sorry, repeat that again.
No, like when we were in slavery, they said that this is how we used to like be free of anything like the problems that we're dealing with. We still like celebrate like this. So this is the part of our culture before even there was.
Yeah. They're saying that we were doing it secretly and it was always part of our culture. It's what they're going to say because they're going to see it comes from Egypt. So they're going to try to be like, yo, we've been sneakily doing this for a long time, right? And it's been our culture. So we're not going to let it go, right? It's really ours, right? We're not going to do the Lenten season with them. But you know what? We're going to say it represents the abolition of slavery, the emancipation of slavery. This is what Carnival represents to us. The freeing of the slaves. Right?
Back in the slavery.
Yeah. And still take the word, which goes back to freeing of the flesh. It's not about your slavery. You calling it Carnival, which means you're freeing your flesh. All right?
But they're in kind of slavery because they don't have Christ, right? They don't have
Correct. All right, so we're just gonna once again put a couple pictures in there. We have like about 2 things of pictures. We're just gonna scroll through for them. Right, the first one we're just seeing the carnival festivities. That's an actual picture there with that face there, right? And they're not. No one's saying nothing. All right, that's what you'll see there. In Soca, you see a little more. Soca gets a little more when you go to the Soca festival, right? And they get a little more dark with black oil and the horns on them and all types of stuff, right? So they know what type of spirit they're getting, especially the Bacchanalia. The Bacchanalia, that's when they're getting into more Carnival. They try to be like all nice and pretty with it, right? The Bacchanalia, what you're gonna get into, that's when we get into more grave and bring a grave out and bring the thing out and act like a demon and all right. Just going down again, the next picture. We're seeing the connection there, all right? This is what symbolic of what they were doing before, right? What is this explaining? The orgies, the sexual sin, the desires, right? Yes, they have clothes on, right? Back then, that wouldn't be there, all right? It's the same thing. It's just, once again, they have to have the clothes on the outward. All right, so we're going down again. Once again, the same things, all right? Revelation of the flesh, the colors, these same colors when we go into the revelation of the flesh, this is what attracts the angels. The angels seeing that. They're seeing the skin. They're seeing the body movement, right? The beautifulness. They're seeing the makeup. All of that's getting to them, all right? Going on down, all right? Yes, men is going to have to be there too, all right? Men is there too to partake, all right? They're ready. They're ready to get into the sexual desires. They're saying, I'm going to hold me a 2, 4, 5, 5, 10, bubble of me a gap, all right? All right. Go with it out again, all right? The next picture. All right, that's an example. The same thing where they're by the waters. All right, they're by the waters. The sins of Sodom, Sodom by the waters. It's not a day long, right? They try to make it long, right? They try to make it seem like it's long by just raising and they're going back and forth. They have to extend the time out, right? The lakeshore is not a day, something long, right? But you see them trying to mimic what's happening in Sodom. All right, going down again, right? The revelation of the flesh again. All right, if you're wearing clothes in Caravana, then right, you're definitely not what the crowd is doing. All right, So Caribana is all about showing least clothes as possible, having colors, being festive. Once again, revelation of the flesh. All right. So we're going to go to the Britannica Encyclopedia, and we're going to go into Bacchanalia.
This is Bacchanalia out of the Britannica Encyclopedia. In Greco-Roman religion, any of the several festivals of Bacchus or Dionysius, the wine god, they probably originated as rites of fertility gods. The most famous of the Greek Dionysia were in Attica and included the little or rustic Dionysia, characterized by simple old-fashioned rites. The Linnea, which included a festal procession and dramatic performances. The Antithestria, essentially a drinking feast. The city or great Dionysia, accompanied by dramatic performances in the theater of Dionysius, which was the most famous of all, and the Oscophoria, carrying of the grape clusters. Introduced into Rome from Lower Italy, the Bacchanalia were at first held in secret, attended by women only, on 3 days of the year. Later, admission was extended to men, and celebrations took place as often as 5 times a month. The reputation of these festivals as orgies led in 166 BC to a decree of the Roman Senate that prohibited the Bacchanalia throughout Italy, except in certain special cases. Surprisingly, a copy of the decree survives, as does an account by the Roman historian Livy. Nevertheless, Bacchanalia long continued in South Italy.
All right, so Bacchanalia, Greco-Roman religion. So Bacchanalia going back to Rome once again. So they could try to hide and be like, oh, we're not copying them, then why are you calling them Bacchanalia? All right, so they're trying to come up with excuses to separate from their practices and establish their own, but this, Bacchanalists and all of it, which going back to Rome again. All right, Festival of Rome, Bacchus, Dionysus, all right, is a wine god. So Bacchus is a wine god, all right? Bacchus is a wine god.
That's why they have to dance wine.
Yes,
Wine.
yes. Yeah, Bacchus. You put it in a Bacchus. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, oh, man. All right, so Bacchus is a wine god.
So they're not actually drinking the wine, they're whining in.
Well, you call it wine too, so this is why they call it a wine, right?
Wine
So now
up.
it all making sense now. We are wine up.
Yeah. That's how Nanny wine.
Yeah, so they calling it a wine because that was originally coming from the wine god that's influencing them to wine. It was the wine that was making them wine. So they just called it wine. It makes sense. Yeah. All right, so wine. All right, there's a wine god. Bacchus is a wine god. All right, and once again, this probably originated as a rite of fertility god. So this is a fertility because once again, this season, they like to say, oh, carnival babies. All right, born these times. Carnival babies. Yeah. People having carnival babies.
7 months after this time.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much almost having
Yeah.
intercourse.
Remember, that's what's going to happen. This is what's going on. This is just what's happening in the streets. The flesh, once you're partaking in this, your flesh desire is going to go past that to what you're seeing in the daytime, into the what's happening in night. Remember, night is hidden. Daytime, everyone's outside. There's only so much they can do outside. It's in this climate we're in.
That's why they have the after parties after and they go hunting.
All right. So once again, all right, a religion, it was a rite of the fertility gods. All right, drinking, essentially drinking. Drinking was part of it. All right. And once again, the pictures that they have always usually showing them grape clusters. All right, it was introduced into Rome from Lower Italy. All right, so south of Italy. All right, Bacchanalia were first held in secret. So the Bacchanalia was held in secret and was only attended by women. So women were the first ones. And why are we going to go into, when we go into Testament of Reuben, it says women, right, they're more inflamed with the desire of fornication and lust more than men. Remember, they're of the flesh more. So when you're talking about freeing of the flesh and being free, they're the first ones in secret to do that. So once again, they were doing that. Then men here, and then they're like, yo, let's invite men into it. All right? And this goes back into, once again, in Rome, when they said that a woman was laying with woman and all of this, because there's a woman. Why are women doing this among? How come there's no men there, right? Later on, they're inviting the men. So this is what was going on in Rome, where the women started to do this amongst each other, and then later on, they started to invite men to what we would call as orgies. All right.
So Bacchanalia is different from Carnival, and Bacchanalia started in Italy, pretty much.
No, Bacchanalia started in
Italy.
well, yeah, it's all coming from Rome. Remember, Rome is bringing it all back. We just read everything started back from Rome.
Yeah.
It started from Rome, Italy, and then it moved to Venice. Remember, that's what we just read. It started in Rome and Italy, then it moves to Venice, then it goes away a little from Rome.
It's funny because there's probably a lot of racist Italians that look down upon it or whatever, or make comments. They don't realize it even comes from their own country.
I'm pretty sure they don't come from the country. Just like these people don't know what they're doing. That's what they offend them. Yeah, they know they know they never lost their mind. They know this stuff. Yeah.
A lot
The
of
person
them-
came in and asked us. They didn't make it seem like they didn't know what they were talking about. They're like, do you know what this is about? Yeah, it stopped there. We didn't ask them nothing after that. Yeah. I can see that, but they're like, oh, do you guys know what you guys are celebrating? In the whole elevator, that's the first time I'm like, yo, I gotta, look into what all this stuff is. All right. So once again, the reputation of these festivals as orgies led in 186 BC. All right, to the decree of the Roman Senate. So this was happening even before Christ came on the scene in Rome. All right, this stuff was happening in Rome. This is what Paul is talking about, where hey, the woman is being inflamed with lust. They're going away. Right. This is starting with women going and doing this secretly first, then extending admission to men. All right. And this took place 5 times in a month. They're even doing worse. Right. So they were inflamed. Right. Sodom did it 4 times. Right. This is where God's saying people are doing worse than Sodom. All right. 5 times in a month. All right. Roman Senate then eventually prohibited the Bacchanalia throughout Italy, except in certain special places, in cases. All right. So they started at that time. I didn't have the decree, but at that time the decree would say, all right, if a man can't, then he has to go over here and do it there. So basically they're saying if you can't go back that desire, then go and do here and there. So this is what the certain special decrees was. All right. So once again, Bacchus, Dionysus is a wine god. All right. It comes from fertility rites. It was first attended by women in secret. All right, then men were invited, leading us to understand that once again, that women are more inflamed with the lust. They're quicker to, they want to free that flesh first. And they were freeing it first and then inviting men to free the flesh with them.
Because they realize that women can't read women.
Yeah, so it's like you got to, right? But now what they're waiting for is that men that won't judge them, right? So that's what the hiding is for. Once they get men that are down, then we extend it. We have some inside men that's down that they're not going to say nothing.
So the women were hiding a lot of dark things within themselves, and then they brought the men in.
Oh yeah, right now they're saying once again, there's a lot of women that's controlling these houses that have this stuff. Because remember, the woman's gonna first open up to a female. The female's gonna be gathering them, and they're gonna be able to have a house, or it's gonna happen that, and then they could go and find men that would be in that likeness. So this is how it goes. You see what I'm saying?
Some of the men might kill them for it.
Right, or judge them. Once again, well, that's back in the day, killed. Right now it's judge, killing by look or judging. Right. So once again, this is the picture that we have there. All right, that's from the British Museum. All right, that's Satyr, that's a Bacchanet. This is their Bacchanalia they're doing back in these days in Rome. All right, actual artwork of it. All right, and you see what they're doing. They have the animals. They have the flutes. You see him with the flute. You see the timbrel. The same stuff. All right, you see the instruments. You see the nakedness. All right. Theirs, they include animals with theirs. All right, so once again, we're going to go to Bacchanalia, Jamaica. So Jamaica has came out with a Bacchanalia, all right? And we went to this one because, once again, we know Trinidad, those other places have Bacchanalia, but now Jamaica, they have officially set up their own, all right?
Yeah, they never did.
They never was a part of that, right? So we're going to go see what this is and where it came from.
Bacchanal, Jamaica. Bacchanal, Jamaica has become the main facet of Carnival in Jamaica's season and continues to grow from strength to strength, commanding thousands of fun lovers, soca junkies, and celebrities to participate. celebrate, and spread one love. Bacchanal Jamaica was not birthed to compete with the jewel that is Trinidad's Carnival. Bacchanal was created to bring its own unique gems of energy, flavor, and culture that are Jamaica to all the encompassing crown of Jamaica's carnival seasons. Unlike many of the carnivals held throughout the Caribbean and Latin America, Jamaica kicks off its carnival week after Lent on Easter Saturday. This week is jam-packed with activities every night until the Road March grand finale on the following weekend. Bacchanal Jamaica has evolved into a dedicated family that invests hundreds of hours into designing distinct, innovative costumes that complement a custom annual theme. Our team also brings the same intensity, vigor, and passion to the creation and execution of every event and party, just so the other family members, our revelers, bacchanalists, have the time of their lives each and every time.
All right, so once again, it says Bacchanal Jamaica has become the main facet of Carnival in Jamaica's season. So they've now stepping up in Carnival season. All right. And once again, they have to tell you that Bacchanal Jamaica was not birthed to compete with the jewel that is Trinidad's Carnival. Because Trinidad is the one where that whole Bacchanal, all of that's coming from, right? So they know that you making that now. Are you trying to compete with in the islands who originally said, hey, because we have the Carnival. They came out with the Bacchanalia part now, right? Where we get into a little more wild. That's what we're trying to show. Bacchanal and Carnival, when you go into a Bacchanalia event, that's different from a Carnival. I've been to a Carnival event. I've never been to a Bacchanalia event.
Well, Trinidad has their calypso, and there's a guy that sings a song that says, I'm a Bacchanalist.
Yeah.
That's the whole song.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So Jamaica's makes theirs. Well, Trinidad is the staple. Theirs is theirs. Which is why I went here, because it's showing you that Trinidad is where they made the Bacchanalia, and then Jamaica is now trying to, once again, copy that in some lightness, but say they're not copying. It's not a competition. We're just trying to bring that love here, and people who love that soca vibe to that, into Jamaica.
If you really look at it, it's the same thing.
Oh, yeah, it's the same thing.
The same way they're doing the same thing. So even if you try to distinct it, because of the abolishment of whatever, it's the same.
It's the same thing.
And they're lumping it all together because they're failing to understand that Carnival, Bacchanal, there's two components there. It's not, they're limping it together. Like, they're trying to make Bacchanalia in Jamaica when they'd probably be better off just to do Carnival or say Carnival. Adding the Bacchanal is like,
well, they're all the same thing. It's just now we understand when you're saying Bacchanal, you're really going into.
you're really talking about
yeah. You're now going into that spirit because you're calling on that name. So it's gonna look. Once you're calling on the name, it's gonna be even. The spirit is being raised even more. All right. So the next thing we see here is that it starts after Lent on Easter Saturday. So once again, when you're gonna see our people try to make a reason to celebrate this, they're trying to go away from the church. So they're like, you know what? Now that we have control of the season and we're making our own, let's put it after the whole Christian stuff. So they put it after the Lent. So the Christians already celebrated their carnival, then went into Lent. Now they're like, all right, now we'll place ours right here, so it has nothing to do with that. Right, and now it's just emancipation of slavery. You see, this is what they're doing.
So it's like basically going back to Ezekiel 16 and 48 all over again, right there.
Oh, all over again, right? Doing their own thing, right? Bringing in their own sins of Sodom. But still sinning, all right? Using things as a cloak. So they're using slavery as a cloak. Another thing, they're using slavery as a cloak to continue into this sin, because this sin came from the church where they're seeing, and they want to be a part of it. And they need a reason to continue in it. So they're needing a pretext. The pretext is, all right, let's connect it to freeing of the slaves. And now we could dance to it freely. Then pretext is change the dates to after that time and then say it's freeing of the slaves. All right, so once again, key notes. Jamaica forms its own Bacchanalia Carnival for emancipation of a slavery marker. All right, Carnival starts after Lent for Caribbeans. All right, but before Lent in original Carnival observances. So Carnival is before Lent in original Carnival observances. In the Caribbeans and stuff, they're putting it to after the whole Lent season. So to have a separation from the church and to attach it to slavery instead. All right, so we're going to continue. All right. So the last detailed major part of the lesson here. All right, so we're here gearing up at the end. We're gonna go to the historical origins of Bacchanalia now. All right, so this one, we went and got this one where this is gonna go into some details. All right, on the Bacchanalia things that was going on. All right, but give it to us.
A Dictionary of Greek and Roman Antiquities by John Murray, London, 1875. Bacchanalia. The worship of Dionysius, whom the Romans called Bacchus, or rather Bacchic, mysteries, and orgies, Bacchanalia, are said to have been introduced from southern Italy into Etruria, and from thence into Rome, where for a time they were carried on in secret and during the latter period of their existence at night.
All right, so once again, the Romans dealing with Dionysus, all right, who the Romans called Bacchus, all right, dealing with mysteries and orgies, all right. This came from south of Italy into Rome. They were carried on in secret in night. Continue for us.
The initiated, according to Livy, did not only indulge in feasting and drinking their meetings, but when their minds were heated with wine, they indulged in the coarsest excess and the most unnatural vices. Young girls and youths were seduced, and all modesty was set aside. Every kind of vice found here its full satisfaction.
All right, so here we're seeing again, the initiated did not only indulge in feasting and drinking at their meetings. So we're seeing more than Sodom. The sins is greater than Sodom. Because once again, Sodom wasn't including the eating and the drinking. I mean, the drinking part. There was just the eating part. There was no flesh part either. I'm pretty sure they're eating flesh there. All right, and drinking. And what is that leading to? It says when their minds were heated with wine. So the same stuff is saying where their minds were now heated with wine, they indulge in the coarsest excesses of the most unnatural vices. He can't even explain. He's just telling you, yo, unnatural vices. All right. Young girls and youths were seduced. So this is what there's really happened. They bring them there to give them the alcohol to seduce the young girls and the youths. And all modesty was set aside. All kinds of vice was found there till its full satisfaction. So it basically was set up as a playground, right, for sexual natures. And basically all that glitter and that's all just to bring you to what the true desire is that somebody grown wants somebody young. Yes. All right. Young youths and stuff being seduced. All right. So continue for us.
But crimes did not remain confined to these meetings for false witnesses. Forgeries, false wills, and denunciations proceed from this focus of crime. Poison and assassination were carried on under the cover of the society, and the voices of those who had been fraudulently drawn into these orgies and would cry out against the shameless practices were drowned by the shouts of the Bacchantes and the deafening sounds of drums and cymbals. The time of initiation lasted 10 days, during which a person obliged to abstain from all sexual intercourse. On the 10th, he took a solemn meal, underwent a purification by water, and was led into the sanctuary, Bacchanal.
All right. So once again, what was happening here? So the crimes did not remain confined to these meetings, but from these meetings. So where you get this example from? If no one's ever watched it, go watch the movie Eyes Wide Shut. All right, because in these meetings, all right, people are gathering there, but what they're telling you is certain stuff starts to happen. Someone starts to talk. Then they're like, yo, we gotta take this person out. We gotta take this guy out. Then assassinations. Then once again, forgery, bribery, poisoning. All of this stuff starts to happen from the secret meetings. All right. So nothing just stems there. It starts to leak out towards outside of there. And then someone tries to leave, and then they're like, you can't leave. Then they have people watching you. Like all this stuff starts to happen. All right. So this is in the movie Eyes Wide Shut by Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman. All right, go check that movie out where you see all these same things happening here with the masquerades, with the parties, with the masks, with the orgies. That's all in that movie, Eyes Wide Shut. All right. So the voices who had been fraudulently drawn into these orgies would cry out against the shameless practices. And once again, they were drowned out by the shouts of bacchantes and deafening sounds of drums and cymbals. So they would be there, and then once again, they'd be able to attack them. So when Eyes Wide Shut, once again, the guy went to the place, he snuck into the place, and basically he was wearing the mask, but then they figured out that this guy is not supposed to be here, right? Yeah, once again, I don't know how but they figured out that the guy wasn't supposed to be there, and then once again, from there, it turns into, right? All different types of stuff, and them coming against him and him, but when you're there now, because now when they're seeing him there, they basically, everyone comes against him. They're playing the music loud. You're in mass, so now they're able to do whatever. You're already in a place that's hidden where everyone's hiding their identity. So it's easy to do you something and harm now. All right, so this is what they're showing you, that someone who will be drawing there be like, all right, just going to see what's happening. They're like, oh my God, they're trying to leave. Now they can't leave. They just start playing the music louder and shouting and deafening sounds, right? And they start to come against these people. All right, so assassination under the cover of the society. Voices of who had been fraudulently drawn into these orgies can't be heard because once again, they're trying to come out and all the noise and everything drown them out, and these people then take them over. This is the same stuff that was happening in Sodom. All right, continue for us. All right, you can read that paragraph from the beginning. Right.
The time of initiation lasted 10 days, during which a person was obliged to abstain from all sexual intercourse. On the 10th, he took a solemn meal, underwent a purification by water, and was led into the sanctuary, Bacchanalia. At first, only women were initiated, and the orgies were celebrated every year during 3 days. Matrons alternately performed the functions of priests, but Bacchanalia, a companion matron pretending to act under the direct influence of Bacchus, changed the whole method of celebration. She admitted men to the initiation and transferred the solemnization, which had hitherto taken place during the daytime, to the night. Instead of 3 days in the year, she ordered that the Bacchanalia should be held during 5 days in every month. It was from the time that these orgies were carried on after this new plan that, according to the statement of an eyewitness, licentiousness and crimes of every description were committed. Men as well as women indulged in the most unnatural appetites, and those who attempted to stop or to oppose such odious proceedings fell as victims.
All right, so here we're seeing, again, at first only women were initiated. All right, so before we go there, once again, time of initiation, they're supposed to last 10 days. So 10 days, they're basically to abstain from all of that. And then they engage into that, right? They took a solemnly meal. They're basically showing this like it's a religious practice, all right? Abstinence, then taking a meal, then purification by water, then led into the sanctuary where they're going to begin the sexual desires. All right, this is what's going on. As people are hearing about places like Dubai and all of that, that's what's happening. All right, people go in there, leading women there, all right, they're going to fast, they're eating, no, nothing's happening. And then at the end of the stuff, all right, they're being led into the sanctuary, basically the place where this stuff is going to go down. All right. At first, only women were initiated. All right. The orgies were celebrated every year during 3 days. All right. And this, we have to teach the children this because once again, who is connected? They're trying to reach to the children before we can put sense into the children to understand what's going on. All right. Into the youth. Let me be more specific. All right. So women were the only ones initiated. All right. Bacchanalia, a companion matron, all right, pretending to act under the direct influence of Bacchus. So she was saying basically she's a prophetess of Bacchus, under the influence of Bacchus. Changed the whole method of celebration. So a woman came and said, yo, we're going to change this celebration. She then admits men into it. So this is what really happened. She admits men into it. So a woman, right, which we know it was a woman, but this woman who said she had the spirit of Bacchus on her, she then changes the celebration, admits men into the initiation, transferred the solemnization, all right, that take place during the daytime to the night. So she transferred it. It used to be in the daytime and then put it to the nighttime. And then once again, instead of 3 days in the year, she ordered that Bacchanalia should be held during 5 days in every month.
But Archbishop Pusa said that she was pretending.
This is what they, obviously they're going to go on that. I'm pretty sure they're not going on the spiritual. They're taking they don't know, right? That's what she's saying. That's what he said, all right? So she changed it to this 5 days every month. So the female changed it even to worse. It included men. Now, once again, by eyewitness. So this person, they're reading historical things. That's why we went here, because they're reading historical accounts that they're saying that, hey, by what's described, they're saying they were dealing with the most unnatural appetites. And those who try to stop it, they fell as victim, meaning that if you were in the midst of that, then they would just, all the noise and the music would drown out what they're doing to you. All right, but continue for us.
It was, as Livy says, a principle of the society to hold every ordinance of God and nature in contempt. Men, as if seized by fits of madness and under great convulsions, gave oracles, and the matrons dressed as Bacchae with disheveled hair, and burning torches in their hands, ran down to the Tiber and plunged their torches into the water. The torches, however, containing sulfur and chalk, were not extinguished. Men who refused to take part in the crimes of these orgies were frequently thrown into dark caverns and dispatched, while the perpetrators declared that they had been carried off by the gods. Among the number of the members of these mysteries were, at the time when they were suppressed, persons of all classes. During the last 2 years, nobody had been initiated who was above the age of 20 years. As this age was thought most fit for seduction and sensual pleasure.
All right, so nobody was over the age of 20 years old. All right, so this once again. All right, they're coming with torches in their hand, disheveled hair, right? Men who refused to take part in the crimes of these orgies were frequently thrown into dark caverns and dispatched, while perpetrators declared that they had been carried off by the gods. So once again, this is a deception. So this is why we're going into Disney World, these places where there's many reports of people getting taken. Because once again, the deception is to bring you there and then you don't know what's going on, right? And they're really there to pick off some people for what they want to do. All right, so the biggest thing, go look into it. The Disney World disappearances. All right. And then once again, because they know people don't want to partake in this, but these are people that was being led at this time unknowingly. So there's people that want to partake, and then they would bring people that they're like, you know what? I don't know if they want to, but they're bringing them, and then they reveal to them what the whole plan is. They're like, they're not down. They're like, you're down. Because now you're down and out and knocked out. All right, so this is the sexual desire. This, once again, once you're feeding the flesh this desire, there's no way you're going to say you're going to stop this. And this is why they had to stop these practices, because it's a lie. You're not freeing yourself from the flesh by practicing this. You're engaging more, right? You're putting more fuel to the fire.
What they say, Archbishop, when they say that when you go away from the Godhead, there's 7 worse demons that come on you? Something like that?
Well, when they say when if you clean out inside, then it's gonna bring more people, right? Because it's like it's got a new house. So, yeah, it's like, yo, we got a new crib to come into. All right. So once again, nobody had been initiated who was above the age of 20 years old. So you're seeing what they really want in these festivals is young people. All right. So continue for us.
In the year 186 BC, the consuls Spurius Postumius Albinus and Marcius Philippus were informed of the existence of these meetings, and after having ascertained the facts mentioned above, they made a report to the Senate. The Senate, alarmed by this singular discovery, and although dreading lest members of their own families might be involved, invested the consuls with extraordinary power to inquire into the nature of these nocturnal meetings, to exert all their energy to secure the priests and priestesses, to issue a proclamation throughout Rome and Italy, forbidding anyone to be initiated in the Bacchic mysteries, or to meet for the purposes of celebrating them, but above all things to submit those individuals who had already been secured to a rigid trial. The consuls, after having given to the subordinate magistrates all the necessary instructions, held an assembly of the people, in which the facts just discovered were explained to the public, in order that the objects of the proceedings which were to take place might be known to every citizen. A reward was at that time offered to anyone who might be able to give further information, or to name anyone that belonged to the conspiracy, as it was called. Measures were also taken to prevent anyone from leaving Italy. During the night following, a great number of persons were apprehended. Many of them put an end to their own lives. The whole number of the initiated were said to be around 7,000. The trial of all those who were apprehended lasted 30 days. Rome was mostly deserted, for the innocent as well as the guilty had reason to fear. The punishment inflicted on those who were convicted varied according to the degree of their guilt. Some were thrown into prison, others were put to death.
All right, so we're seeing here, once again, all right, Council Spurius Postumus Albinus, all right, they were informed of the existence of these meetings, and once again, they started to report into the Senate. The Senate was alarmed by what was happening, by these things, all right, and they start to look for people who were involved in this, all right, and they put out a proclamation, all right, to issue out a proclamation throughout all Rome and Italy, forbidding anyone to be initiated into Bacchic mysteries or to meet for the purpose of celebrating them. All right. So not just, oh, I'm not doing the mysteries, oh, celebrating them. All right. Because when you're just celebrating, you're like, oh, I'm not partaking. I didn't actually go and do them. All right, I'm just celebrating. Right. Doing them, celebrating them, above all things, to submit those individuals who had already been secured to a rigid trial. All right. So they submitted those individuals who had already been a part of it to trial. All right. A reward was given to find those people a part of the conspiracy. Because remember, it's an underground society. They want to know who was a part of it. All right. They said the number of initiated was around 7,000. 7 is completion. All right. The sin was completed. God was like, this is enough of this sin. All right. Punishment inflicted on those who were convicted varied to the degree of their guilt. Some were thrown into prison. Others were put to death. So people were put to death for these stuff. So this is what we're getting to, that these stuff in the European places begin to get banned when they find out about it. All right. The Catholic Church brings it back out. And then we see the island people, they're getting a hold of it. And they're the one, once again, with their freedom, with the slavery, with all of that, they're holding on to it to bring it back out again, to bring out Bacchic rites into the public, into celebration, and to make everybody else partake of it. All right. And they're basically the leading people of bringing people into the carnival. No one's joining carnival because of the church. They're joining it to join Caribbean culture. All right. So Caribbean culture is getting people back into the Bacchic mysteries. All right. So we're going to continue.
The women were surrendered to their parents or husbands that they might receive their punishment in private. The consuls then were ordered by the Senate to destroy all Bacchanalia throughout Rome and in Italy, with the exception of such altars or statues of the god as had existed there from ancient times. In order to prevent a restoration of the Bacchic orgies, the celebrated decree of the Senate, Senatus Autocratus de Bacchanalis, was issued, commanding that no Bacchanalia should be held either in Rome or in Italy. That if anyone should think such ceremonies necessary, or if he could not neglect them without scruples or making atonement, he should apply to the praetor urbanus, who might then consult the Senate. If the permission should be granted to him in an assembly of the Senate, consisting of not less than 100 members, he might solemnize the Bacchic Sacra, but no more than 5 persons were to be present at the celebration. There should be no common fund and no master of the sacra or priest. This decree is also mentioned by Cicero. A brazen table containing this important document was discovered near Bari in southern Italy in the year 1640 and is at present in the Imperial Museum of Vienna. A copy of it is given in Drankenborg's edition of Livy.
All right. So once again, we're seeing here the women were surrendered to their parents, all right, or husbands, that they might receive their punishment in private, all right. The Senate ordered, right, the councils were ordered by the Senate to destroy all Bacchanalia throughout Rome, all right, with the exceptions of such altars or statues of the god that had existed there from ancient times. So they said destroy everything that's new, but anything from ancient times, keep it there. All right, so once again, Bacchanalia is attached to a god and attached to gods and statues. That's the number one thing. All right, so people could be, oh, I'm just celebrating Bacchanalia. That's a god that has statues, that has worship, that has mysteries, rites, and sexual orgy rites that's all tied to it in its history. And we're seeing it here. All right, people were arrested, people were jailed. All right, it was banned.
But then people would be like, oh, we're not doing that stuff anymore. They don't realize that you're still invoking that spirit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So once again,
The main thing is just wanting to be worshipped, right?
who?
The,
Oh yeah. They just want them to do what they want them to do. They don't care if you don't believe in your mind, you're not doing it.
but they're not getting, but the spirit's not getting the orgies. Well, maybe it is, but not at the actual caravan and parade, right?
Not at the parade. It's after the parade. Yeah. Once again, it's not at the parade. It's in the nighttime now, after the parade. All right. So once again, we're getting to the bottom now where they didn't totally ban it. All right. So what they said here is that commanded that no Bacchanalia should be held either in Rome or Italy. That if anyone should think such ceremonies necessary, so if someone's like, yo, I need to do this, it's necessary. If he could not neglect them without scruples or making atonements, right, he should apply to the praetor Ubinus, who might then consult the Senate. So he would apply to somebody to, like, try to get a license. So this is them getting a license to maybe try to host an event. If the permission should be granted to him, so if he was getting a license in the assembly of the Senate, all right, it would be consistent of not less than 100 members, all right? That's the Senate, all right? He might solemnize the Bacchic Sacra, but no more than 5 persons were to be present at the celebration. So if he got a license, it was like, all right, you got a license, 5 people. And they would have a thing with 5 people. He got a license to do it with 5 people around. All right? So only 5 persons were to be present at the celebration. There should be no common fund. So there should be no fund to put money into it. And no master of the sacria or priest should be there as well. So the things that we're seeing right now, there's a common fund for Caravana and all of that. And because that's where they're making the costumes and bringing all the stuff. So there's a common fund to make the stuff get bigger. All right. They were doing this so it make sure it couldn't go past these 5 persons here. All right. So this decree also mentioned by Cicero. All right. A brazen table containing this important document was discovered near Bari in southern Italy. So once again, these are written off documents, right, that they're explaining to you. All right, so we're seeing what's Bacchanalia. Bacchanalia, this is Bacchanalia, all right? And the way that they went to ban it out of places, and now we're seeing it creeping back in through the church, right, and then into Caribbean culture. And we're seeing Caribbean culture try to separate themselves from the church practices and then say it's about the freeing of slavery and nothing to do with getting right spiritually, right? At least the others, they try to attach it to something spiritual, right? The Caribbean, they're now trying to go away from all of that by putting the celebrations after the 40-day fast season, what they call Lent. All right, so we're now going to go to Colossians 3 and 5. So we're at the end here.
It's the book of Colossians chapter 3, verse 5. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry.
All right, so we're to mortify our members which are upon the earth, all right, from fornication, uncleanliness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, covetousness, and which is idolatry. All right, so this is what God's saying to do, right? You want to release it. We're to mortify the flesh. All right. We're not to say this farewell to the flesh. We're going to go to what mortify is.
All right. It's the Strong's definition of the word mortify. This is from the Greek 3499. Nikru. To deaden, that is figuratively to subdue, be dead, mortify.
All right. So we're to deaden. That means to stop. To dead that means stop that. All right, dead that right now. That means stop that. All right, it doesn't mean to once again indulge in its fullness as a way of stopping. Right. So once again, we've been showing people that we're teaching to mortify. The other day, I met with somebody and they're from the church and they're telling me they're trying to set up a meeting with other pastors to speak to. And when I had showed them the daily requirements, they ain't never seen nothing like that. And once again, it's going to make a Christian go into their mind and be like, yo, am I on my A game? He's like, yo, I need to wake up early in the morning, right? You need to do this, right? But this is the mind. When you're giving it to, once again, we can see it all the time. When you're giving it to a fresh mind, right? We're just explaining to somebody we've seen them that, hey, when you see yourself all the time, you can't see like the changes and all of that. It takes somebody else to look at it and be like, oh, shoot. And because they're seeing it now in its freshness, they're like, oh, wow. So once again, your eyes might not be like that. Well, once again, showing it to a Christian, they've never seen nothing like that. They've never had someone of religious stature hand them something and say, yo, you need to record that and bring that back and hold them responsible, right? That's what mortifying the flesh is, because now it's going to hold them to a certain standard. Now he's like, yo, I got to get up early, right? Now he's telling me, yo, I usually go to bed 3 and I wake up like 8:45, 9. He's like, that's not early, right? Now he's going to, what's that? What's the Essene shower? What's that? Right? Now he's going into, okay, oh, you mean get up, go outside and make it to a place on time, right? For presentment of worship, all right? To go into some, right? Spiritual practices and prayer, right? To hold yourself accountable, all right? To know, hey, this is how to prepare for the Lord, to get up for the Lord, right? To prepare yourself for him, all right? You preparing yourself doing that, then you'll be prepared on the Sabbath day. You definitely be coming early on the Sabbath day if you're preparing during the week and using that as a, hey, let me get up, let me go to this spot, let me go around the corner, this spot right here, shower, get there, pray, and boom. That's all we're saying, call it a day. We're not saying to spend 20 hours there. I think we're saying to hold yourself accountable, put on what you need to put on, cleanse yourself for the Lord, make it to a certain spot to show dedication. And that's what the Lord is looking for in your heart. All right. That is mortifying the flesh, mortifying the members. All right. That's how you deaden it. Not saying farewell to the flesh by indulging in its fullness, which that's what we see Carnival is about. And once again, all right. So we're going to continue into what is mortify. All right. The Thayer definition. All right. We're going to go into.
This is mortify. Their definition. This is the Greek 3499. Necro. That is to make dead, to put to death, slay, worn out, of an impotent old man, to deprive of power, destroy the strength of. Related words by Thayer. It's a part of speech. That's it.
All right. And we're going to go into mortification. All right. Oh, no, sorry, mortify etymology, sorry.
It's the etymology of the word mortify from the late 14th century. Mortifin, to kill, destroy the life of, from Old French mortifier. Destroy, overwhelm, punish, from late Latin mortificare. Cause death, kill, put to death, literally make dead, from mortificus. Producing death, from Latin mors, genitive mortis, death. Pyrute, myrrh, to rub away harm, also to die, and forming words referring to death and to being subject to death, combining form of facere, to make, to do, from pyrute, day, to set or to put. Religious sense of subdue the flesh by abstinence and discipline is attested from the 15th century. Sense of humiliate, chagrin, vex, is recorded by the 1690s. Compare mortification.
All right. So we're seeing now mortify means to kill, to destroy the life of. All right. To die. All right. To put it to death, meaning to stop. If you're dying, guess what? Stop. Your heart stops. So dying brings things to stop. All right. And once again, in the religious sense, it meant subdue the flesh by abstinence and discipline, not by engaging in the actual acts in its fullness and then saying, yo, I'm going to stop. You see, that's a pretext that they use to continue the celebration, right? By saying, oh, we can add it to the church. We could celebrate it before, and then we could get into Lenten season. All right. Even before a fast, they tell you don't eat a bunch of food before you get into the fast. That's the worst thing to do. Right. Right. Everyone knows, yo, you're going to eat a whole, everyone like, yo, I'm going to eat the biggest meal. They say that's the worst thing, because right after that, because you just ate that, you didn't teach your body to discipline nothing. It's ready for another big meal. Right. You're supposed to now lower down your portions.
When you say that, what's coming to my mind, like people that's on death row, like the death penalty,
Yeah.
their last day they could choose whatever they want to eat.
Yeah. The last day, they're like, yo, as much as you want. Yeah.
Before you're dead.
You know, even the song, in your 24 hours to live, what would you do? Right? In that 24 hours, you're going to do all, because it's your last. That's when you do everything now, not when you're trying to stop. All right, so even for myself, when I said stop eating the flesh, right, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take these 2 weeks, and I'm like, I didn't say, yo, these 2 weeks I'm going to go unlicensed and bound to eat flesh. I was just like, yo, I'm going to pick the things that I believe my mind would try to convince me, yo, you didn't try this before. That's what it was. It wasn't you're going to persist in those things. All right, so if you're going to say, I'm going to eat all of that, and then I'm going to, no, that's not going to work. All right, so I already knew in my mind that I knew that your mind would try to be like, yo, you forgot this, you didn't eat this. So it's like, get that out the way. You know what I'm saying? Get that last time out the way, basically. Which is supposed to be a last time, right? And once again, not unbound license into the thing, just to make sure my body registered that last taste. All right, but that's not what they're doing. They're going into full unbound, unlicensed of the flesh on that day, in hopes that they can now remove themselves from the flesh. All right, which it doesn't work like that. All right, so we're going to go to Romans 8 and 12.
It's the book of Romans chapter 8, verse 12. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh to live after the flesh. For if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if ye through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God.
All right, so therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh. So we're not to be like, oh, I need to do this for my flesh. My flesh need to do this. Oh, and this is what, once again, this is why I said for myself, I went, because I know how the flesh is. The flesh is going to be like, yo, you owe me. You never did this before. You never. So already, you know what, dead that. I'm already going to give it that one last chance, because after that, the flesh is not going to tell me, oh, yo, you need to try this. You need to do this. And me live after the desire of the flesh, right? The Spirit is in control to be like, yo, I can watch a show. I can do it. And it be like, all right, I see that, right? I can see the flesh trying to tempt you, but the Spirit being controlled to be like, I would never do that again. All right, I will never live after the flesh again. All right, but the flesh is trying to convince you that, hey, come on, live after the flesh. Come on, yo, you don't. And then even some people sometimes you don't miss it. You don't miss being in the flesh. I'm saying we're just using the flesh as an example, but when we're saying flesh, we're meaning all the things that come with fleshly desire. All right. So once again, for if you live after the flesh, ye shall die. So if you're living after the flesh, if you're going to continue and persist in that flesh, you're going to eventually die. But if you through the Spirit, do mortify the deeds of the body. So mortify meaning to deaden. All right. So you can't say you're going to say farewell by going into the fullness of the sin. What does he say here? But if you through the Spirit do mortify, which means if you do deaden the deeds, which is the actions of the body. If you deaden the actions of your body, then you shall live. You got to stop the actions of the body. You can't go into the action and then say, by me going into it, I'm going to stop. All right. And a lot of people say that. And you know what this reminds me of? Someone said, you know what? They're going to leave the church and that's going to bring them back to the church. Right. By leaving the church, you're fully engaging in that flesh. Right. No, but you got to come. You got to persist to come, all right, to mortify that body. By you releasing and saying you're not going to come, it's going to be harder for you now to come because now you let your flesh go. And now on that day, fleshly things are happening now. You know what I'm saying? And it's making it hard to come back now because you said, yo, you're going to go work on yourself and come back. You said you're going to go live after the flesh. That's the best idea, to indulge in the fullness of the flesh in hopes that you can remove the flesh. That's not the way it works. All right, so you got to mortify, meaning deaden the actions. All right, stop going to places on the Sabbath. Focus on the Sabbath. All right. For many are led by the Spirit of God. They are the, so if you're led by the Spirit, if you're being led by the Spirit, now you're the sons of God. But if you're being led by the flesh, once again, you're son of Satan. All right. So we're going to go to mortify once again. Actually, we already went to mortify, so you don't even have to go to that again. All right. Yeah, we just went to mortify. All right. So we're now going to go to actually the pocket dictionary. We're going to go to the mortification definition.
All right. So definition of mortification out of the pocket dictionary of the Reformed tradition. Mortification, the process of putting to death one's sinful nature, the old self, which continually struggles because of the reality of indwelling sin. This process takes place in the lives of believers who, while they have been set free from sin's dominion by the indwelling Holy Spirit who unites them to Christ, are called to live in light of God's grace as they actively work on their salvation.
All right, so this is what we're seeing here. The mortification, the process of putting to death one's sinful nature, the old self, which continually struggles because of the reality of the indwelling of sin. So even though we're baptized, all of that, the reality is that your flesh is still here. So you have to mortify, meaning to stop, tell it to stop. You got to stop the hand. What's that movie where they had the hand moving in that hand? What's that? Is it Adam's Family? Oh, that's the movie. But no, there's another movie where they said the hand is making it do desires. I forgot what it's.
Idle hands.
It's like,
It's called idle hands, yeah.
idle hands.
You get to chop behind the devil, yeah, I know. It's idle hands.
Hands. No, there's another one too. Hands.
Yeah, the
Hands
hands
moving.
people and you can't control it.
Movie. Let's see. Hands movie. The hand. No, the hand. Yeah, there's another one. Is it idle hands? No, idle hands. What is idle hands? Nah, not idle hands. It's another. No, it's just like, they're doing stuff where their hand is uncontrolled. It's like basically sexual nature where they're trying. Yeah. Basically the hand, the movie has the hand here to show that, basically trying to control their desires. Let me see. No, I can't get the movie. It's not popping up. That's the type of movie. Maybe it's not coming. Control, no. I don't have, no, there's a next movie. Well, all right, I'm gonna find a movie. There is a movie where it's that. All right, we're gonna get it though. All right, well, hopefully, somebody could do their own research and find that movie. All right, so we're at the ending here. All right, so basically, once again, this process takes place in the lives of the believers who, while they have been set free from sin's dominion by indwelling the Holy Spirit who unites them, all right, to Christ, are called to live in God's light. All right. Basically, you're being freed. You're freed from the law, but you're able to work on yourself, right? While you're working out your salvation, you don't have that, hey, I'm going to be punished. I'm gravely going to be punished over you. You're able to work on yourself truthfully, all right, in the pureness of your heart. All right. So we're going to get to the 5 keys to self-control, and then we're going to close out.
5 keys to self-control. Balance, calmness, determination, confidence, willpower.
All right. So once again, the 5 keys to self-control, and you see the hands there. All right. Balance, calmness, determination, confidence, willpower. All right. So you have to have a balance. So why? To have self-control, you can't go into something uncontrollably. That's no balance. Right, so there has to be a balance there. So like I told you, when I was like, hey, I'm going to stop this, there's a balance there. Not to say I'm going to go uncontrollably, but to understand, you know what? I can't just say I'm going to stop. I'm going to be real with myself, right? And I'm going to get the last taste of that. So my body can't do that. That's a balance, right? But controlling the amount. Then a calmness. Then a determination to get it done. Then a confidence that, hey, yo, I'm going to do it. Then the willpower to do it. And then it brings in the final resolution, which is self-control. All right. So once again, 5 keys to self-control: balance, calmness, determination, confidence, willpower. All right. I'm ready to close out. We're going to go to Philippians 4 and 8.
It's the book of Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true.
All right, so what's true? It's true that Carnival and Bacchanalia comes from Rome. All right, it goes back into Egypt. It goes back into Sodom. It goes back to the daughters of Cain. These things are true. It's true that Carnival means farewell to the flesh or removal of the flesh. It's true that they tried to lie and say that by taking part of Carnival, all right, you can then conquer or remove your flesh by practicing unbounding your flesh first. It's true that God hears the cries of these declarations and comes down to see, is it true that people are acting out these same things? It's true that the nations and even Israel sins were worse than Sodom, according to the Most High. They did worse than Sodom. And then he laid out all of Sodom's sins and showed that the other people are going further and taking it further than what Sodom did. Continue for us.
Whatsoever things are honest.
All right. What's honest? It's honest that what's happening, that this is in our day and age time coming from the Christian church. If we're going to be honest, this is a Christian celebration in today's day that came from the church. All right. That's placed before the day of Lent. To be honest, we're seeing Negroes from the Caribbean who is inflamed with sin as well, want to partake in that same sin, but don't want to partake in the church. So they got to make up a reason, an honest reason in their eyes to celebrate, which is the freeing of the slaves, the emancipation of the slaves, and then moving the date to after the Lent season. We got to be honest with ourselves to know that these things do not bring righteousness, and be honest, at least the Caribbeans, to know that these things are a part of the church and a part of Rome, and you are dealing with things with the church and with Rome and with Bacchanalia. All right, continue for us.
Whatsoever things are just.
All right, it's just when the Most High, when the Word of God, when Christ brings the judgment down onto Sodom and Gomorrah and people who operate like that because of the unbounded sins that they do. When we're reading about in behind the scenes, we see the wickedness of the sins that they're doing behind darkness, that they have to get banned out of the lands. So it's just when the punishments come onto those initiated in these things, because they're taking advantage of young children, youth, young women, young men. Continue for us.
Whatsoever things are pure.
All right, what's pure? Pure is mortifying our flesh to deaden the desires. That's pure. Pure is not going into our flesh unabounded in hopes of deadening the desire. Continue for us.
Whatsoever things are lovely.
All right, what's lovely? Lovely is what? The deadening of the flesh, the abstinence. All right, the balance. God gave us grace and everything to be balanced, but not to go into our desires unabound, not to use our liberty as a cloak of maliciousness for our sins. All right, continue for us.
Whatsoever things are of good report. If they're...
All right, a good report. What's a good report? You want a good report, because what did the Most High hear? The Most High heard the cries and declarations of Sodom. He heard the cries and declarations of Sodom coming out. All right. And he came to see if those actions were actually happening. All right. But once again, we see that God likes good reports, good declarations, good things coming from the land to where he could bless the land. We're always hearing about when he hears something bad and has to bring bad things on the land. All right, continue for us.
If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which you have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you.
All right, so once again, those things you've seen and heard us do, and the God of peace will be with you. All right, so once again, this is the sins of Sodom, Carnival, and Bacchanalia, the freeing of the flesh. All right, the only freeing of the flesh is in Christ through the Spirit. All right, that brings liberation to allow us to operate in the flesh. All right, to not operate in the flesh, but to operate and work on our spirit, right, while fighting the flesh. All right, and not falling to those mistakes. One mistake not taking you over. All right, but having the freedom to make a mistake. That's what it is. It's the freedom to make a mistake and bounce back. With that being said, we want to say, all praises be unto the Most High Almighty, Yahweh Yeshua Christ, our Lord and Savior, who the world calls Jesus Christ. This is the Essene Community Church of Christ. My name is Archbishop Shamar.
And I'm Bishop Mike Allah.
And this was our Sabbath report / lesson. Once again, the sins of Sodom, Carnival, and Bacchanalia, the freeing of the flesh. Warning to all the Bacchanalias. Come out of it, all right, before the Father comes down and once again sees and confirms that actions are happening. With that being said, peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Only the children of light is gonna understand this.
For there are three philosophical sects among the Jews, the followers of the first of which are the Pharisees, of the second, the Sadducees, and the third sect, which pretends to a severer discipline, are called the Essenes. These last are Jews by birth and Jews by birth